Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I am your host, Tiffany, and we're going to talk about toxic people today. So I know every single one of you listening has toxic people in your life, or you had them in your life. You know, the energy vampires, the addicts of the world, the bloodsuckers, the liars, the manipulators, you know, the narcissists, all those fun people. We all have had someone like that in our lives. Maybe you have someone like that in your life now. We don't get to escape this lifetime without encountering or dealing with those people, unfortunately. I was raised by one. My mom is a narcissist to a very serious degree. I don't know how many of you listening can relate to being raised by a parent who's a narcissist. I know there's quite a few listeners who are married to one or in a relationship with one. And it really can take a damaging toll, even if it's a boss, even if it's a friend. It takes a toll because their entire goal of abusive, toxic people is they are filled with so much hate. Their goal is to project that on you and make you feel like crap, which in turn somehow makes them feel superior and better. All you are is a tool, a pawn to them. You might as well actually be a lamp. You are often seen as just an object. It was hard for me to hear this in the beginning because it's like, well, my God, I mean, how could you possibly see your own child as an object? Well, this is, you know, an actual personality disorder. Some of these people are really, really sick and they see people as objects. They don't have empathy. It's, you know, they could sell you, they could turn you on, they could turn you off, they could put you in a closet, they could put you on display, whatever they need from you at any given time. That's what you're good for. And if you're, you know, if the bulb is out, they might throw you out. If you're broken, they're probably not going to spend time fixing it. If there's a shinier, prettier lamp, you're for sure being dumped out into the trash. And that's how they work. And it's cold and it's callous. And those kind of people know how to seek out the people who are the nurturers, the overgivers, takers. Just, they know how to do that. It's like a couples therapist said to me once, who was counseling a prior relationship I had with someone who was toxic, an addict. And he said, you know, it's a lock and a key. You can't have one without the other. You can't have an addict without an enabler. You know, you can't have an abusive partner without a codependent. It's not possible. So they gravitate. And I was like a moth to the light with these people. You know, I would say to friends, I would make a lot of jokes like, well, I'm an asshole magnet. I attract assholes. And I meant like not just dating, but like bosses, friends. And I really would keep saying that, which, knowing what I know about like law of attraction and how long I've studied that, I mean, no wonder why I kept attracting more assholes. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy that I just have all these kinds of people in my life and I'm like helpless to it. I never realized until I did that I could do something to change it. I had a power to change that in myself, in my energy, in creating boundaries. And that's why I feel it's so important to, share this episode and have this topic discussed today, especially during holiday time, because this is when toxic, unhealthy, dysfunctional people are at their worst. During high stress periods, holiday time, tax time, this is when they come out, especially if you're starting to add like alcohol into the mix. People are sleep deprived from traveling. They're around people they don't want to. It is exhausting. And instead of trying to focus on, well, what can we do to manage them and have them behave better and worry about what they're going to do, let's use that energy and focus on you. How are you going to manage the situation in order to best care for yourself? What decisions are you going to make in order to keep your sanity and preserve your peace? So start looking out for you first. There's a reason why I named this company and this podcast ProjectME, because we're the most important projects of our life. It all starts and ends with us, and not in a self-serving way, in a self-preservation way. This is how we create boundaries. This is how we create our own joy. This is how we live an authentic life where we say yes to things we want. We say no to the things that we don't want. And because when we do that, our self-esteem rises, our sense of confidence rises, our abundance rises, and then we lift everyone else up around us. So it's actually selfish to not put yourself first in that sense. So what I want you guys to do is to first take a inventory of the people you have in your life. You might want to write this down. I wrote mine down. I want you to write down every person in your life that comes to mind that you don't feel good when you're around. When you leave them, you feel worse than before. When you're around them, you feel worse than when you're alone. I want you to write the list. My list was very long 5.5 years ago. My list today only includes my mom, and I deal with her on a very, very strict, rare basis. The rest of it is, there isn't anyone because I have zero tolerance for it. But I understand that's a process. It takes time to get there. So I want you to create a list and look at that. I then want you to put next to each person how you feel when you're around that person and in their presence, your body, how you feel. Is it anxious? Is it nervous? Is it tired? Is it awkward, uncomfortable? How does it make you feel being around them, or even the anticipation of having to be around them? And then I want you to write next to that, how do you feel when you're like done with that encounter? Is there relief? Are you exhausted? Are you drained? Are you angry? Are you irritable? Are you hungry? What goes on? This way, you can't pacify yourself and stay in denial about this person's level of effect on your life and toxicity. Like, oh, it's not that bad. I only have to see, Uncle Joe like once a year, twice a year. Or, yeah, my best friend, she's great. It is kind of all about her, but I've known her since 3rd grade. And she has a big heart though. That's the kind of stuff that we do with people to minimize their unacceptable behavior. And when we put things on paper like that, you're facing the truth. And it's hard to face the truth sometimes. It's a lot easier to not think of people that we love as being unhealthy for us. Because once we realize and admit they're unhealthy for us, well, now you have to do something about it. Because if you don't, It's your fault. You can't point the finger like, oh, my sister's horrible. It's why I'm in a bad mood. I can't stand my husband. You can't really point the finger anymore because now you've lifted the veil of denial. And now you're making a choice to keep that person in your life who you know makes you feel like this. And now who's the insane one? Now it's on you. So I'm not being light about this exercise. I know this exercise is heavy, but it's got to be done because the other alternative is just grinding you into the ground. I know, I've been there. I get asked the question a lot like, okay, how do I know, or how do I remove someone in my life, especially if they're in my family, Tiffany? I'm a great person to ask, right? Look at my mom. I'm a great person to ask. It's about detaching with love. Okay. What I mean by that is, and you're like, how can I love someone who's horrible, who I can't stand? I mean, love for yourself, right? Love and compassion for yourself. Sometimes it's a slow detachment to where you do it slowly. Other times that pain of being around the person and that anxiety is so great, it needs to be done sooner than later. Sometimes you don't have to say anything to them. Oftentimes, if we shift our energy and create boundaries, we stop enabling them, we stop overgiving, we stop cowtailing to them, we stop, placating them and excusing unexcusable behavior. A lot of times these people will go away on their own. They'll stop calling as much, reaching out as much, inviting you places because you are no longer giving them supply or of being of service. They're not getting high off you anymore. You have no use. You're a broken lamp now. They're going to go find someone else who's a different new shiny lamp to replace you with. As simple as that. And it's hurtful. It feels discarding. You know, someone's just discarded you and thrown you out, and that's exactly what they've done. And you don't want someone like that in your life. And it's better to get rid of them now. And sometimes those are some of the people that are closest to you in your life because that's their job, is to get close to you. And sometimes that's just how it happens in the sense they give birth to you, or it's a sister or a relative or something like that. Most of the people that I needed to detach from left on their own because I was no longer being the enabling, overgiving Tiffany who was so accommodating and went out of my way and did tons of favors and all those things. When I stopped doing all that stuff, I was of no use and it made them angry. And when I stuck to my personal boundaries and I didn't do it, well, I wasn't of service anymore. And it was painful because it was like, God, they never really gave a shit. And it's like, well, that really stings, but I'd rather know now than keep giving to like a bottomless pit. It's time, give in and pour into myself. I don't think you guys know this about me, but 5 years, so Thanksgiving, about, I guess you could say 5.5 years ago, approximately, a little over 5 years ago, I spent that Thanksgiving and Christmas alone and the next Thanksgiving and Christmas totally alone because I removed all those people from my life. I had no people. I had one person. And could I have gone and seen that one person and traveled? I could have. I could have. So it wasn't like I had nowhere to go, woe's me. But I was not in a place where it would have been smart to do that. And I don't know, it must have been God or something telling me to stay put. But it was very healing. I'm not saying there weren't a lot of tears watching Hallmark movies, okay? Or even catching myself scrolling Facebook, looking at the families wearing matching sweater sets, which please don't do that unless you're doing it to make fun of it. I'm over it. And you know what else I'm over? Don't send the fucking letter the long letter of all the accomplishments and all the travels you've done for the year and all the things your kids have done, and then add on the picture with the matching sweaters where, you're all, at the beach or something like that. I don't care. I don't read it. I don't want to see it. And it's very self-absorbed. No one really wants to see it either. Just saying. And tell me, you guys, hit me up on social media, share the show, and tag at ProjectME with Tiffany, and let me know. Let's talk about this. Don't do the matching sweaters. Don't send the damn letter. I'm over it. I just can't believe how much time people put into that. I do love receiving the cards of the pictures. I do picture cards too. I like seeing someone's pictures. That's fine. There's something really irritating though about the matching. We're the perfectly matching family and we paid for professional photos and everything's fine. It's I don't know. I just don't like it. Do you guys agree, or do you think I'm just being weird because I have one living relative? I need to know these things. These are important things. So when to remove someone from your life when you do the list like I discussed, and they make you feel worse than they would if you were alone. I would rather be alone any day of the week than around someone who makes me feel worse than when I'm alone. That's pure insanity. Why would you do that? That is self-abuse. It's like someone who's lactose intolerant and knows they can't have a latte with regular milk because it'll be a shit show. Literally. And then they know this, and yet they go and have a latte with regular milk expecting for it to not be a shit show. That's self-abuse and pure insanity. To expect someone to be any different than they've behaved before, even if you have made changes within yourself, and expect a different result, is a setup for full abuse. I've done it a million times. You might have a few more rounds in you. You might be in a relationship right now where you have a few rounds. I went round and round and round and round with several people over and over again. And I could do the whole cycle. It's like the abuse cycle. And then there's the honeymoon period where the person does the flowers and is really on good behavior and is sweet. And then the shit hits the fan again, and it goes and goes and goes again to the point where you don't want to tell anyone about it because you're embarrassed because it's insane. It's time to rip off the Band-Aid. I recommend having some kind of support, a therapist, a coach, even if you have one friend. I have one person. Thank God I did have one person, and I had a therapist. So I wasn't alone. At that time, I had not, I was spiritual in the sense of the universe. I had not had a close spiritual relationship with God at that time because I thought God deserted me. So but at least I had a spiritual type relationship where I knew there was something bigger than myself. But that really wasn't even enough. I needed to know that there was at least one or two humans in my corner, because then when you start detaching from all these people, you have the support. And you can't tell yourself the lie that you're alone, because you're not alone. You won't be alone forever. And in order to attract amazing, beautiful, trustworthy, giving, compassionate people into your life, you have to be willing to remove the toxic shit. You have got to weed your fucking garden. You have to. If you want more flowers to bloom and have more room to plant more flowers, you must weed the garden. If you are not willing to weed the garden, and then you expect every time you look at it for it to be overcome with beautiful flowers, you are in serious denial and insane. You're in a bad insanity pattern, and I'm here to try to break that up in your brain for you. It's time to do it. And it's a messy job. It is not fun. It brings up a ton of stuff and a ton of grief. And some of these people get nasty. And that's why you have to really run it through someone else. I like to say a professional, a professional coach or a therapist or something like that, because some people are really unsafe to detach from. So I don't want you running and detaching from someone who's physically abusive, for example, without working with a professional on how to do that, right? I didn't say to my mom, for example, I'm never talking to you again. Not a good plan to do with a narcissist. I had to have professional guidance on how to best detach, and I still talk to her on occasion, but I keep a very healthy distance. But there was a 2-year period where I didn't talk to her, but I still sent things in the mail. So there's no black and white with this. You don't have to just cut someone off. There were a couple people I did just cut off, and it was really uncomfortable and they didn't like it. There was someone who was was my best friend. Long time best friend, traveled the world with her. And, my last straw was when I got engaged and I got a text message that said, wow, well, that's a big commitment. And that was her response to me getting engaged to Mike. And it was like, wow, she couldn't even be, happy for me. And that really pierced that final denial. I knew what I needed to do. I felt very drained and suffocated by that relationship. But that was that final step. And there was no conversation. And this is someone I had known for many, 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 many years. This was like my person. But my person was a very unhealthy person, as was I most of that time. Unhealthy in a different way, right? I always say like attracts like. We have a role in all this too. We're equally unhealthy in a different way. To accept unacceptable behavior, you are unhealthy, right? So it takes two people. I'm not excusing abusive behavior. I'm not saying that you welcomed it. I'm not saying it was warranted. I'm just saying that it takes two. Now, you know that I am a abuse survivor from childhood. That's a different story. There's what are you supposed to do as a child? I didn't know any better, right? So I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to us in our adult lives. And a lot of times, guess what? I didn't know any better most of my adult life until the pain was too great. Hence why I'm so passionate about talking about this kind of stuff, because I want you guys to release yourself from the burden of these people. It's not worth it. And if you truly want to call in amazing, wonderful people in your life, you have to weed that damn garden. There is no way around it. And I can tell you it's worth it. There's a period, as I call, sitting in the dirty diaper, which was me spending those 2 years of holidays alone. It was uncomfortable. Sunday nights were uncomfortable. Even some Friday and Saturday nights were uncomfortable. But what I learned was to fill my time with focusing on me. I got into like embroidery. I tried different things. I tried cooking. We know I don't like cooking, but at least I tried it. I took different art classes. I read a lot of books. I poured into myself. Basically, like I dated myself instead of having like friends to go out and do something with. I did something like I knew I was going to have, I'd get a great bottle of wine. And I don't mean in like an abusive alcohol abuse way. Like I'd get a bottle of wine. I would pick up some good food and I would watch a movie, like something you would go do with a friend. I had to do it with myself. I'd never done that in my entire life. And that is truly where my self-worth started to grow. And that neediness in me started to dissipate because I started learning I don't need anyone else to feel secure and happy and loved. That doesn't mean you don't want to have companionship, right? We're human beings. But that neediness dropped in me. I mean, I remember when I said, you know what, if I'm single for the rest of my life, but I'm happy, that's okay. If that's, what God wants for me, that's okay. And I really meant it. And when that energy truly shifts like that, you attract totally different people in your life, in love relationships, in friendships, in business relationships, in clients, in everything. And the people I have in my life today are incredible, honorable. What they say, they mean. What they mean, they say. Does that mean they're perfect? No, no one's perfect all the time. People unintentionally will hurt people's feelings, right? I know I have, or maybe I didn't show up in a way they wanted me to, but the overall sense is I feel better for having them in my life. I don't feel drained. I feel energized. And I want that for all of you. And I want you guys to know that you have that power within you to do it. And I wanted to give you some tools to do that. If you're struggling with a certain situation, especially during the holidays, you know what? DM me. I spend 2 hours every single day in my DMs 7 days a week. This is my way of being of service to you guys, building relationships with you guys. And I'm someone who gets it. So you could be at a family function, go to the bathroom. I have a dear mentor, friend of mine, who says the best thing to do if you're in a situation you're uncomfortable, you need to regroup, excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. It's somewhere you can go alone. No one can tell you not to go. And you can have a moment in there. Go to the bathroom, pull up Instagram, DM me, and be like, oh my God, I'm at a family function. This person's like this. I fucking hate it. Vent. It doesn't matter. Get it out. Text a good friend. Tell people ahead of time. Maybe you only have one person in your life you can trust like that. Maybe you can be a support for other women who or other friends who have toxic relationships in their life. And you can be a support and create kind of like a holiday support thing. So you could even make it kind of fun and have a keyword for when, Aunt Susie's being, demeaning and verbally abusive. You could have a code word where it's like, Pineapple City over here, or, something like that, to where you don't feel so alone and you have the support of other people. I know that that's something that's really helped me. Just even texting people when I'm through it, taking a moment, going to the bathroom and texting someone like, it Mayday over here. I'm like melting down. This is horrible. Even venting and getting it out, and just having my text go off like in my pocket, or I can feel it in my purse and just glance at it quickly. It was a reminder, like, I'm okay. I'm not alone. And that's something beautiful you can do to care for yourself and pour back into yourself until you eventually remove these people from your life. You guys, I'm getting really damn close to hitting my goal of 200 5-star iTunes reviews by Thanksgiving. Please, if you haven't done so, for the love of God, you guys like the show, go leave a damn review. If you don't know how, Google it. It comes up in 2 seconds. It'll tell you how. It takes 90 seconds. This is my goal. Can you please give that back to me? We don't need that many more to hit the goal. And that would mean so much to me, and also to my Project Me with Tiffany Carter podcast team, who work very hard on putting this show out for all of you. As you know, no one is charged for listening to it. So I would really, really appreciate it. Love you guys so much. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Talk to you soon. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.